All right, thanks for tuning into this very special interview where I have Eric Ward with me. My name's Matt LeClaire, and I'm glad you're here. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Eric Ward, he is a freaking rock star in the world of link building, and I'm not just saying that either. Needless to say, I'm so stoked that he's here today and that he agreed to this interview. If you're unfamiliar with Eric, he founded the web's first service to help publicize web content to the online world in 1994. He started his business, before Google started their business. In fact, Jeff Bezos asked Eric to announce and publicize Amazon.com's debut on the web. You've heard of that website, right? Amazon.com. And I'm sure you've heard of Jeff Bezos, its owner. Well, Eric had the privilege of announcing and publicizing that site when it came out onto the scene. Huge. Now, Eric's also a vehement white hatter. He creates and executed content, linking and publicity campaigns and strategies for PBS.org, Warner Brothers, Discovery Channel, National Geographic, the New York Times, TVGuide.com, Paramount, and Weather.com. His methods continue to be featured in numerous publications and interviews and podcasts, as well as included in college courses. In 2013, Eric co-authored the book, The Ultimate Guide to Link Building, along with Garrett French. Without further ado, here's the recording of the interview with Eric Ward.
Eric, I really appreciate you being on this call. When you first agreed to do it, I almost fell over in my chair because you're a freaking rock star in the world of link building. I feel like I'm getting to interview a young Brando or Elvis Presley. You're awesome. And I know that you hear that wherever you go and do these interviews, but you've had a huge influence on my business and how I go about earning links for my business and my clients. And I know this interview is going to be really beneficial to the small business owners who are listening. That's most of the traffic we get, and most of the people that we do business with are small business owners. So, welcome.
Well, thank you, and thank you for that really complimentary introduction. I think I'm honored to be even considered in the same sentence with Brando or Presley, but I'm definitely not a young Brando. I think you'd have to call me at this point a very much nearing middle age Brando or Presley, which in both cases means I need to go on a diet.
Yeah. So a really young Brando. So you're aging well.
It's interesting. Brando and Presley kind of ended up larger than life, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, you're handling your later years. You're about the same age I am, so you're not that much into the later years. But yeah, they didn't handle their 50s and 60s very well. Did Elvis even make it to his 50s?
No. I hope that I will handle my 50s very well. But thank you for having me on the show, and I'll do anything that I can do to try to help with my answers. I certainly don't have all the answers. If I did, I'd be retired. I'd be done. But as a one-person business who is determined to stay that way, who has a family of, actually I'm responsible for feeding 6 people. And that's hard to do when you're a one-person business and you've only got so many hours in the day to do it. So I'm never going to retire. At the same time, it's still fun for me because I'm very selective about the kind of projects that I take on and I'm honest about people's assessments of their business models and what they're trying to accomplish online. Not that I can necessarily be a sage and predict their failure or success, but there's certainly a lot of research. One of the things I've started offering just in the last couple of years is merger and acquisition counsel, because people are buying websites because they're tired and frustrated of not being able to figure out, the right combination to get their website to convert or rank or whatever. So all of a sudden we're seeing mergers and acquisitions, and it's like, then people are buying the wrong sites or they're buying the wrong assets. So I'm finding myself doing a lot more stuff where I had a client ask, we're looking at buying a number of websites. We've narrowed it down to about 20. Could you do some of your analytics and tell us, if you were us, which ones should we be taking the strongest look at? I won't even mention that service on my site because I'm nervous about it, because I'm like, I don't want to be the guy who kept a guy from getting, a buyout and then him suing me like, so-and-so was going to write me a huge check, and then you gave him a recommendation that my links all sucked, and now I'm done. I'm sorry, you might have to bleep that out of your recording, but so it's never boring. All of these years later, there's always something new related to links coming around the corner. So, it's very cool. I enjoy it tremendously.
Well, yeah, it is fun work. I mean, like I said, we're about the same age, and you've been more into link building a lot longer than I have. It's still fun because it's always something new to learn, and that's what kind of puts a lot of small business owners off, is that there's always something new to learn. And a lot of the people that are listening to this interview, they're coming right off of my Shoot for the Moon Backlink Challenge video series. And a lot of them coming in, they may be reading this or listening to the interview first before jumping into the videos. A lot of them have no idea even what link building is. So can you break it down what link building is? And
one of the easiest ways to explain it is simply to ask somebody like you do to sit down at my desk, or here's my phone or my tablet, and I want you to do a search for me. Would you please go to Google? And then watch what they do. Because there's only two ways to get to Google. Really. You've got to know enough about a web browser to tap in the location bar and type it in directly. Or you've got a bookmark, or you've got a link via an icon on your phone on a tablet, or it's in your bookmarks on your Chrome browser or Firefox or whatever you're using. Or there's a resource page somewhere you bookmark. But there's really only two ways you're going to get any, call it a content asset, website, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, but you type it in or you click or tap something. So how I would explain it to any small business is that the only way we can ever discover all of these really cool things that are out there, like the kids now in social media, like my son, whether it's on whatever ticket, whether it's, some of them support clickable links, some of them do not. But whatever it is, whether it's YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, Musical.ly, or whatever they're currently into, people share links, drop links, or whatever, even on Facebook within somebody's profile. I'll explain to people that ultimately, at the end of the day, what you just did was you just shared a link. And this is basically the fabric of the web today, as it always was. And it's just that it's a much more massive fabric. But these links get there because people put them there to help other people be able to find the good stuff. Unfortunately, as you know, there's been a period of time, and it continues, where people also, for the wrong reasons, try to find ways to sneak links into various ways to trick people or to manipulate search rankings or to get people to a website. But ultimately, how I would explain link building or link development to a small business person or a 5-year-old would be, it's the way we find stuff on the web. It's the way we share stuff on the web so that you can find that new episode of SpongeBob. Or if you're a small business person with a dental practice with 5 dentists, it's a way that you can help new clients learn about your business practice. Because how are they going to do that online if they don't already know your URL because they heard it on a radio ad or saw it on your TV commercial? How else are people going to get to your web? Well, they're going to search for me. Yeah, that's true. They could search for you. But there's also other ways that they might find you via links. Why? Because you might have, if you're in Knoxville, Tennessee, like I am, and you're a dentist, and it so happens that you're also a runner, you might choose to sponsor the Knoxville Marathon. Knoxville Marathon sponsored by so-and-so Dental Arts of Knoxville. And now when somebody goes and they fill out that form to sign up for the marathon on the website and they get their confirmation screen, please print this out and bring it with you on race day. Thanks to our sponsors. Bingo Bango right there. You could have everybody from Domino's Pizza to a plumber to so-and-so Dental Arts. And that's a link. And that link has nothing to do with Google. And that runner right there, and again, it could be just branding. They might not click that right then. Why? Because they don't need any dental services at that point. At the same time, when you start to replicate this and multiply this and start to talk about the process of weaving yourself into the quilt of web content in any local marketplace, that's where those links start to occur, and that's where traffic starts to come that doesn't come just from a Google search. For me, the absolute greatest joy I get working with small businesses is helping them have to rely less on Google. Yeah, take what Google will give you. maximize whatever it is in your local listing profile. Claim your Google business listing. Do those things. Make sure your citations are correct. But now you're not done. Now you get started. That's just the foundation. That's the stuff every dentist can do. Now we actually start to do the fun stuff that separates you and really helps make you stand apart from a publicity and linking standpoint from your competitors.
Well, let's take that a little bit further. Okay, so link building is the ability for other people to find your business online, if we want to simplify it. How much impact does link building have on how the market perceives a business or the owner of a business?
I think it can have a huge impact, especially depending upon location, where. One thing I would say is, and I understand why you use the word link building, we could potentially swap out the word building for development and call it link development. We could also take that entire phrase link building and call it awareness building of your online business. I've never been a big fan of the term link building because it makes it sound like links are cinder blocks or bricks, and that we take mortar and bricks and we build them. Whereas links, ultimately, where this all started with Google, when Larry and Sergey, the founders of Google, were still undergrads, was that links were really human recommendation or the online manifestation of a page or a document or a research study or a paper or a website that somebody found useful and wanted to share with somebody else, and they could do so through the hypertext protocol that allowed them to create links. Now, they didn't invent that. That was, the web was invented by Tim Berners-Lee. The HTTP protocol that allowed us to then share those, and that was pre-Google, way pre-Google. So this was, since I started my business 4 years before Google even existed, or 5, for me, links were always intended to be ways of helping people find the good stuff. So when I look at what's the perception of the business based upon the links, well, a lot of that would, well, I hate to say it because it sounds a little off color, but it would be like, well, if you're a business, do you really want to have a link on, if you're in do you want to link on a strip club's website? Do you want to really sponsor a strip club? You want people associating you with that? If you choose to sponsor something, a moment ago I mentioned like the races, road races or something like that. It's like Google's belief with their algorithm was your links tell a story about your website, and that story will read either like a rap sheet or a college transcript that you're proud of. Your links tell a story about your website, and Google can read that story. So how do you want people perceiving your business can be directly affected by where Google finds links, citations, mentions of your business in the online world. So in my opinion, the answer to the question basically is how much impact? It's hard to put a percentage on it because it also varies, I think, depending upon the industry that you're in. But one thing I'm confident in saying is a dramatic impact. Links have a dramatic impact on how the market, on how your customers, on how algorithms perceive your business.
I like what you said, awareness building. I don't think I've ever heard you say that. That nails it right there. If you want more sites, the right owners of those websites are aware of your business and think enough of you to link to your business, that just makes sense that's going to give that business more of an impact in their industry.
Here's something very few people actually are aware of or think about. If you and I sat down and we decided to build a website and we created a bunch of HTML pages, and we decided that on a desktop machine from our offices, we had the bandwidth, we knew we had the savvy, to install a web server software, DNS domain server software, everything we needed to do. But let's remember that we've created a bunch of HTML documents, and we have basically just stored them on a huge computer in our office. Those files are no different than those Microsoft Word documents or those Excel documents that we also have on that same computer. A web page is invisible until somebody is unaware. There is no awareness of that page or that file or that Word document or that Excel spreadsheet or that PowerPoint document or that web page until somebody knows its address. Now we take it one step further. Even if they know its address, it's on your computer on file in C:/my documents / my new website / Matt's awesome new webpage.html. That's meaningless to anybody unless you also have web server software installed on that same exact, big old massive Dell desktop computer. Now, but here's the cool thing. Once you've done that, and if I know the path, or you email me, it's like, hey, I just wrote a real cool Word doc. You don't need a domain name. You can just give me the URL because you have actually installed that web server software on your machine and given it permission for somebody to access those documents, in your basic permissions on any PC. So if you email me and say, go to the following address on my computer, I can actually pull that right from your computer, because your computer, once you install, you've got a domain name server on your box, you've got a web server on your box. So now just go to 199.124.2.7 /C:/my docs /Matt /Matt's awesome webpage.html, and it's going to load in my browser. So one of the things that so many people completely lose sight of is a website and all of its individual pages or videos or PDF docs or whatever are completely invisible until somebody knows they exist. How would they know they exist? They don't exist until somebody links to them, or until somebody tells them about them, or until a search engine crawls them.
Yeah, well, the last I checked, invisible sites, they don't earn the type of revenue most business owners are looking to generate. They're invisible. Yeah, well, that's a perfect answer to what type of impact does link awareness and awareness building have on a business? Well, it could have a huge impact.
Oh my gosh, it can have a massive. It can be, in my opinion, especially if you're setting up a business designed to succeed based upon online traffic, based upon online visits. It is probably the single most important issue you're going to face. Now, if you're a 25-year-old or a business that's been online for a long time, and then you decide finally to launch a website or an app or whatever, I would say that link development or awareness building certainly is still important. But the beauty of that scenario is it's not like you're going out of business. In fact, you've got some time there to actually learn and get savvy about what works and what doesn't online, because your business was 25 years old or has existed, maybe I should say 50 years old or whatever. If you've existed and were successful before you were ever online to begin with, that's the perfect scenario, because now you've got some time to get it right online. Now, if you're launching a website online only, and you've got to drive traffic online only, and your business model is based upon Google sending you traffic, I've got some really bad news for you. The likelihood of your success is going, in my opinion, going to be driven 100% by the vertical that you've chosen to go into business. You tell me you're going into business into something highly competitive, I'm going to source sporting goods. Anything. I love golf. I always have loved golf. I'm kind of semi-retired. I thought about this online business. I'm going to open me up an online golf superstore. I even registered a really cool name called, everythinggolfunderthesun.com. And then I asked a question. Well, just out of curiosity, because it sounds awesome. How many of your products can I only buy on your site versus any other site, including like Amazon? And if they say, well, none, everything I've got you could buy somewhere else. And I hate to say this, my advice to him is typically going to be, I think you probably don't want to do this. You want to do this on a shoestring. You want to do this with someone else's money. There are better ways than trying to compete with there are millions of dollars spent every single day to sell golf equipment, whether it's pay-per-click or link development or advertising, whatever, banner advertising. And you really want to get into that scrum, and that's where I think where a lot of people, if you're a small business, if you're a dentist and you've got maybe 2 or 3 dentists in a practice, or you're a solo practitioner, and you've hired some SEO local guy to build you a website, and he's telling you you got a blog. Oh, you got a blog. Got to have fresh content. Search engines love fresh content. Well, I don't have time to blog. I'm a dentist. Or, we don't, well, we can do that for you, sir. All we need to do is sit down with you and come up with some ideas, and we'll write that for you, and we'll charge you, we'll do 2 or 3 posts a month. We'll charge you a couple, maybe $200 or $300 a month, and you'll always have fresh content on your website for the search engines. Okay, great. Let's write what articles about dentistry matter? And here's my great example for you. Every listener that's, that is not bored out of their mind, it's listening right now, go to Google. In fact, I'm going to do it right now. Go to Google and do a search, again, using my dentist example. I could easily see an SEO when the dentist says, will you blog for me? Yes. What do you want to blog about? Well, let's blog about dental-related stuff. What's a good topic? Okay, how about how to make sure you're flossing your teeth properly? Awesome article, man, because most people, sometimes they get that wrong because flossing is so hard. And I don't mean to be facetious here, but here's where we get into trouble. I'm going to do a Google search on how to floss your teeth. Now, I know how to floss my teeth. I've been flossing my teeth for 50 years. Well, no, probably 40 years because I didn't have any teeth when I was little. So, how to floss your teeth. I don't really feel like I need this article. A dentist might argue with me. Okay, well, gosh, there's only 600,000 results for how to floss your teeth. Do we really need 600,000? Not only that, WikiHow wrote one with pictures. The number one result is from Colgate. Well, how are you going to outrank Colgate? There's a video at position 4 that in some ways, there's your hero. There's a dentist in Hermosa Beach, California, who is at position 4 here for how to floss your teeth. And the reason I think he's there is he took the time to actually put together a 1minute and 45-second video on how to floss your teeth. And this kind of illustrates another thing about Google for those who were trying to attract Google traffic is that this right there shows Google wants to surface video content. I mean, that guy's video actually beat out Oral-B at position 5. But if you're a dentist in Knoxville, Tennessee, and you call me I cannot in good faith say you need to write an article about how to floss your teeth. Why? Because there's already 500,000 articles about that. So what you've got to do, it's like you've got to identify content gaps is the term you'll hear people in our industry use. You've got to identify that which somebody else hasn't written about or done yet. And sometimes that can be very difficult. Maybe the answer is not necessarily to write a piece of content. I think you and I talked about it, and it's kind of a joke, but it might actually make sense. You and I talked about, what you should do if you're a dentist? Order in bulk about 500 of those little tiny containers of dental floss. And then call the local radio and TV stations and tell them that 2 weeks from Friday, you're going to have the first annual floss toss. And all you got to do is drive up into our parking lot in your car, and I'm going to come out, roll down your window, and I'm going to toss you a little tiny container of floss. And you can then go on your day.
Love it.
And the floss toss is just funny enough, but also valuable enough that you might get some human interest. There may be a human interest angle there that if you've got any kind of even remote, if you have one public relations bone in your body, you would be able to take the time to send out a few emails to the TV and radio stations and newspapers, to some mommy bloggers in town, and let them know that you're about to host the first annual floss toss at so-and-so Dental Arts. And that is the kind of thing somebody somewhere is going to cover that. And the beauty of the web is when I say cover that, whether it gets covered on radio or TV or online, that's the kind of event that turns into links online. Now, that wasn't necessarily your intent in the first place. And the other thing is even if it doesn't, it's a wonderful public relations.
Oh, yeah.
It's wonderful. And put a sign out front. Spend $20 on a banner that you can probably get at FedEx Kinko's on, don't forget, this coming Friday from noon to 2 p.m., the first annual floss toss. with a cute little drawing, that you hire some college kid for $50 to make you a cute logo for what is the floss toss. I'm telling you, this stuff works. I know it works because I've been consulting on this and similar types of stuff for as long as I can remember. And these things turn into online mentions, publicity, attention, and sometimes the difficult challenge here is getting client buy-in. But when you show them,
right,
Google search for articles about dental flossing your teeth, and see, do you really want to just be, there's 645,000. Do you want to be 645,001 and know that Colgate is sitting there at position? Is that really going to help here's the ultimate question. Is that article or that piece of content that you've added to your website, is that topic one that's going to generate any publicity for you? Or is your blog post need to be about, in 2 weeks, join us for the first annual floss toss, and you write 300 or 400 words on what it is, why you're doing it, and invite the media, and make sure you invite the media via your blog post as well as a few phone calls and emails. The other thing is when it's going on, have somebody come out there with an iPhone and film it, because you don't need high production values for that. You can upload that video, and now you've got a new content asset for your own site.
Yep.
Now I'm going to take it even a step further and suggest, because it's free, that client creates a YouTube channel. And maybe they want to do that, or maybe it doesn't cost much to do. People say, oh, I could never afford that. Well, you know what the cost of creating a YouTube channel is? $0.
Yeah. And
so
now
anyway,
the cameras, the cameras are so great on cell phones now.
And that's an example just for a dentist. So in some ways that's an easy one. For me, the fun part is, and Garrett and I did one of these. It was called Speed Link Building. It was a live webinar we did a couple of years ago where we didn't ask for the sites in advance. And then we got online. I think it was on GoToWebinar. And it was like, you give us a site and we're going to give you 3 minutes on what we think you should do. And it's going to be extemporaneous. It's going to be our ideas for what would work for you or what you should do on your website. I love that. To me, that's why I still do it, because every project is like a puzzle. It's a puzzle, and that doesn't mean everyone works. But to me, the best thing to do is to do your testing in ways that don't cost you a fortune if they don't. The floss toss, really, if you think about it, it really doesn't cost you anything. But even if nobody shows up, you give out dental floss to all your customers anyway. So put your big box of dental floss in the storage room. You'll still use them.
Well, one of the big problems with creating content, and a lot of people don't get this, especially small business owners when they get into content creation, is you can put all the effort in the world at creating the best content in the world, but then you have to go out and promote it. And can you imagine going out and promoting how to floss your teeth blog post? That's just not going to happen. I don't care
what I would do?
Hours.
And I'm not being facetious, and I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. But sticking with that example, man, if I were a dentist, you know what I'd write? I would write a blog post, the 20 worst pieces of advice I have ever read about flossing your teeth.
Yeah.
And call them out. Call out. You might end up, I don't know that you'd get sued. I don't think you'd get sued. But call out dentists in other states that aren't competing with you geographically.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of thing that no one's written. And by the way, that's another trick that I'll use. It's like I'll try to brainstorm an article, and I'll ask myself, gee, I wonder if anybody's ever written that. And I'll think through, well, what would the title to that article be that I'm thinking about writing? Like let's say we're a small business and we actually have one of these companies in town, Buttermilk Sky Pie Shop, and they make pies based upon an old family recipe. What's content going to look like for somebody like them? Well, first of all, you've got something, immediately visual. Can you imagine doing any kind of content asset there where you didn't actually show the product? Now, what's the article going to look like? What would an article possibly look like that might generate some attention or publicity? What would it be like? It might be something like, this Thanksgiving, serve your family the best pumpkin pie they have ever tasted, a 75-year-old recipe for pumpkin pie, courtesy of the Buttermilk Sky Pie Shop. Something like that. But going back to what you said a moment ago, it's invisible. Even when you click post in your content management system in your blog, and if you're using WordPress like almost everybody does, now it's live on your website. If you've set your website up properly, it's now the lead post on your front homepage because hopefully you're exposing your freshest content there on your homepage. But you're still invisible unless somebody knows that article exists. So now you still have to figure out a way to promote it. And that's the challenge that every small business has. And there, in my opinion, there is no standard fixed answer where you can say, here are the 27 different places that you're going to go to promote this article. And that's, again, where the puzzle comes in. Now we've got to decide, well, who are the people that would most likely care about this? You know, that it's a Thanksgiving-oriented article. Okay, are there any other companies that we could potentially jointly partner with that aren't competitors? Ham and Goodies. Ham and Goodies specializes in basically, you want to have, their ham is unbelievable. They also have side orders. If you want to cater your own things, if you want them to do your Thanksgiving, cooking or at least some of the sides with you, and they have a website as well. Well, what's there to stop the owners of these two businesses, the Pie Shop and Ham and Goodies, from putting together some sort of joint promotion, whether it's a 2 pumpkin pies for the price of 1 or whatever it might be, and then it might make sense for you to issue a press release and very carefully find 20 news outlets in Knoxville that will be most likely to care, because I can guarantee you somebody in Atlanta could give it. They don't care.
Right.
About a local promotion in Knoxville between a pie company and a company that specializes in ham and goodies. They don't care. So, but finding those people that, who cares about this unique special promotion. Now on your website, you write a blog post about this upcoming special promotion. Now on your website, you also have a new section called Our Partners. And you build on that, because Ham and Goodies is going to be your first one, but you know what? You're going to have a second one. And you're going to have a third one and a fourth one, and you're going to find partners that aren't competitors. And you're also going to now be weaving your site into that quilt that represents your local city and town via links on your websites. So now real business partnerships turn into online partnerships in the form of those links that Google is crawling.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, and it'll give me a chance to bring up your book, too, The Ultimate Guide to Link Building. And it's a book that and I say this a lot, the book came out in 2013. You wrote it with Garrett French. It's just as, everything that you teach in the book, that you put in the book, is just as applicable today as it was when you wrote the book. And there's not too many SEO books you can say that about.
I was asked to write books. I started in 1994. So a lot of people say, why didn't you write a book until 2016 or 15? Why did you wait, 20 years to write a book? And it was always, my answer was, by the time it hits the books, by the time it's at Barnes & Noble or wherever, it's going to be out of, if I write, it's likely to be completely obsolete unless I get to write the book I want to write. And to be honest, I don't know how many people really want to read about, because what I'm going to write is more a book about business development and not SEO, and not about link building. But I finally, after our third child, when I couldn't go out and speak at the conferences as often, it was just harder to travel. That was actually when I decided to take a company up. It was Entrepreneur Press, and I took them up on their offer. And to be honest, I knew I didn't, as a one-person business, I knew I don't have the organizational skills to write a book. And I called Garrett and I said, who I have great respect for, and I said, Garrett, I know this is going to sound crazy, but how'd you like to write a book with me? Because if you don't write this book with me, it's never going to get published. Because Garrett is so organized and so brilliant. And I'm like, I know I've got the book on my hard drive because I've written hundreds of articles over the years. I don't know how to get it on the paper. And he's like, and he was my savior with this book. I basically did a dump of every single thing I'd ever written. We invited some young guys in to also contribute content that we had tremendous respect for. Because I didn't want it to just all be, I believe in that. I think John Kugler contributed some stuff. I think maybe Ross Hudgens also contributed some stuff, and some other people. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to bring like the young Turks of publicity and promotion in there, because I love reading that stuff. I refuse to be set in my ways and say there's only one way to do this. You know, I want to. Now at the same time, I'm not saying I agree with everything that some of these guys do. I mean, there's been some stuff that's just been blatant spam and Google blew out of the water, and I knew it the moment I saw it, like link wheels. And I don't have any idea who invented them, but the idea there was go find 60 different social media outlets, create your profile, and there because in your bio you can put a link back to your website, and bingo, now you've got 60 new links. Yeah, and within about 6 months, Google's going to realize that you don't populate them with any decent content, and any value they might have had, which they never should have had because they weren't legit, they weren't earned, they were self-created links, is going to basically blow up in your face, and bingo, that's what happened.
Yep.
So there were a number of strategies. People are baffled. I mean, I never did article marketing. There are ways to write content for others that are right, and then there's the mass technique that never made sense to me. There's a lot of things out there people are still doing, and unfortunately, a lot of the small businesses. After all of this time, yes, I love that I got to work with Amazon at their launch. I love that I got to, National Geographic, PBS, TV Guide, Weather.com, big famous brands. But you know what? I don't get a buzz. I don't get a adrenaline rush from helping those kinds of sites. I love working with them. They got great content. It's easy linking. It's easy stuff. But for me, it's like, man, when you can help a small business learn how to do this the right way through some fairly reasonable consulting time, they don't have to go after one of these $100,000 a year companies that's going to force them to sign a contract. I've never even worked with a contract, ever. Because for me, it's always been, if I'm doing my job right and you're happy with the results, we're going to keep working together. Whereas if what I'm doing isn't working for you, what good's the contract? Yeah, well, you signed a 6-month contract. I'm sorry it's not working. You're still paying. No. If it's working, we'll keep working together. If it's not, we won't. But small businesses, in my opinion, in today's web, have got the greatest upside.
Yeah, sure they do. Specifically in your book, The Ultimate Guide to Link Building, which you can get at ericward.com/book.html. In your book, you say that the less useful your content is, the less likely you're ever to receive a link to it. Now, there's small business owners listening right now who you've convinced that they need to be earning links, they need to be getting awareness out about their business on the web. What's the best way for a business owner to determine whether or not their content is useful? I mean, what can they do to figure out whether or not they even have, you call them, I believe, a linkable asset. What is it they need to do to figure out whether or not they have anything worth linking to on their website or in their business?
Well, there's a number of things they can do. For the most part, where I start is I want to see where their competitors have had successes and fails in attracting attention. I don't personally believe that you mimic 100% a competitor, because then it's almost like, the keeping up with the Joneses technique is like, it's like running a marathon and you're just trying to stay 2 steps behind the guy in front of you. Well, that means he's always in front of you. You're doing everything he does, but you're still behind him. So following it, but there's a lot to be learned about the successes and fails of the competitor.
Unfortunately, that's where we had to end our call with Eric. But after the call, I got back in touch with him because I wanted to give him an opportunity to talk a little more about his LinkMoses paid subscription newsletter that he charges $8 a month for. For any of you listeners who are interested in getting in contact with Eric and figuring out how Eric can help you with your business. As an owner of multiple small businesses, I know that LinkMoses is a steal. $8 a month? Come on. If you get one tip out of it a year that you can make money with, it more than pays for the entire annual fee of the newsletter. And it's just a no-brainer. But Eric, why should small business owners be reading your newsletter?
Matt, I think that LinkMoses Private is good for small businesses actually might be better for small businesses than the large businesses, because some people think at that price point it won't be helpful, but the reality is that it can be extremely helpful for a small business, because it will help them see the wide variety of opportunities that are out there for them for promotion, awareness building. Yeah, there's link opportunities included in every issue, but they're not appropriate for every type of business. And that kind of is one of the points that I want to make with that newsletter, is I want to show people that there are so many different strategies that you can employ or that you can deploy for your business, depending on what kind of business that you have. So I would very much suggest that small business owners at least consider giving it a try.
Okay, I love it. Tell us about your consultation services.
As far as my consulting services go, you can see on my website that I offer a number of different consulting services. And I guess the reason that I chose to do that is the companies that offer link building services, that offer any kind of linking strategy development that I've seen out there, there are so many of them that charge so much, they've priced themselves to a point where they're not even within the realm of something that a small business can even consider. I mean, I don't want to name names, but there's companies that typically anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000 a month in retainer fees that they charge to quote build links for their clients. And I'm not going to get into the specifics on what I think are the pros and cons of those, or why I feel like that might not be particularly advantageous, other than to say that you really cannot scale link development, content publicity, promotion of your brand in the online world is something that is very difficult to scale as an agency. What are you going to do? Have 50 people in cubicles, each with 10 clients each? Just how much passion are they really going to have for any particular client? You're going to just be a number for the most part for those types of services, and you're paying a fortune for them. So what I try to do with my consulting calls is it's a 75-minute call, and for the fee, and you'll see the fee from the website, I think it's very reasonable. Some people have told me I could charge more for that, but I don't want to. My goal with that call is we do live screen share, and I record it so that you'll hear your voice and my voice. You'll see what I'm showing you on the screen. My goal is to analyze your site from a linking perspective and promotion and publicity perspective, look at what your competitors are up to, see if we can find some content gaps, some strategy gaps, some things that you can take advantage of, or some areas where you might be weak or particularly strong that you could take better advantage of. So that when we're done with the call, you come away with an actionable kind of, call it a blueprint if you want to, or a roadmap of specific tactics that you can go out and execute. And that, for me, at that price point, is exactly the type of thing that I designed so that it would be helpful to small businesses, rather than those small businesses feeling like, oh my gosh, I've got to sign up for something I can't afford without really knowing if it's going to help me. And before you know it, they've spent $20,000 on 4 months worth of link building services that really didn't help them at all. And I know this is happening because I see the link. Someone will contact with me for a consulting call. I'll look at their backlink profile and I'll say, "Tell me where these links came from. How did this happen? You know, were you involved with this?" And they'll say, "No, this is what my agency did for me." And I'll ask, "Well, what would they charge you?" "Well, I was paying $6,000 a month for whatever X number of links." And man, I don't have the heart to tell them, but I try to convey to them that for the most part, everything that they paid, they were on the hook for 3 months. You know, they just dropped around $20,000 for nothing, for something that will not help them with click traffic, will not help them with branding, will not help them with Google organic rankings. So anyway, that's basically what I wanted to design, a consulting approach that would be actionable, affordable, and something that would, I mean, I hate to say it, something that would be so real that at the end of that session, the client would understand that what I'm trying to get at is links are not things. Links are not a commodity. Links are not like little nuggets of something that you stick in a slot machine, and then if you get lucky, you know, you end up ranking higher at Google. No, links have so many different things that they can do for you. in addition to and along with potentially helping you at Google. But most people just really don't see it, and especially don't see it for their particular site in their particular niche. And my goal is to help them with that consult to see that. So anyway, that was probably more than you wanted to hear about it. Anyway, that kind of sums up why I think that's a service that I think might make sense for some of the listeners out there.
Eric, that clears up a lot of things. Thank you for sharing. Thank you again for the interview. It was an awesome privilege studying all your content throughout this challenge I created, the Shoot for the Moon Challenge. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to networking with you in the future and doing further projects with you. Thanks, Eric.